Hi, I'm astrologer Penny Dix and welcome to another Astrobite. And the Astrobite we have for today, Saturday, March the 15th, is about Mercury. Yes, it's going retrograde today in Aries, and then it'll go all the way back into Pisces before it turns direct again. But I'll come to that in a minute. So, you know what happens with Mercury retrogrades? We can start to panic and imagine that all sorts of terrible things are going to happen. And sometimes they do, but not always. So what does it bring in general? Well, it can bring miscommunication. I think because it's in the sign of Aries, it can bring a bit of, impulsive decision making. But also perhaps looking at the past, looking back at actions we've taken, actions we've already taken, and assessing whether they were the right decisions to have made at the time. But I think also Mercury in Aries going backwards it can lead to frustration, misunderstandings. Really what it's saying is slow down, because Mercury itself is slowing down. So Aries as a sign is quite kind of upfront. It says it how it is and it reacts. Remember, it's ruled by Mars. So Aries is a sign that reacts and then asks questions. So there's a little bit of a danger with Mercury going retrograde that we do speak before we think. And I've talked about that before when we had the Mercury conjunct retrograde Venus. So just be aware of that, because it does or can create misunderstandings and arguments in our personal relationships, in business relationships. Also be very mindful of what you're writing and respond. Don't react, especially if it's something important. And the old adage of, if you have got to sign contracts or do a formal kind of agreement, make sure you read the small print. Take your time, because you may take as much time as you like and then in the end find out you have to go back and do a codicil or add something into it. So what else can we expect from Mercury retrograde? Because it can also mean there's a chance to go back to unfinished business. Now, I think it's interesting that just as Mercury is going retrograde, and bearing in mind when I'm recording this, which is on Tuesday, the 11th of March, Mercury is already in what we call its pre-shadow period. It went into its pre-shadow period on March the 2nd. Now, today they are having the discussions in, they're either in Jeddah or Riyadh, I can't remember, in Saudi Arabia, to see if they can find a way to resolve what's happening in Ukraine, the war between Ukraine and Russia. So it may be that Mercury here, being retrograde, may be quite helpful, as long as the parties involved don't go down that path of, yes, but you said and you did and this happened and that's a land grab and you've done this, because that won't be helpful for them. Unfortunately, I'm not their astrologer, so they're not going to listen to me. But it is an opportunity with Mercury retrograde, as these talks progress, for them to go back and see if they can redress the balance a bit and find a compromise, a fair way to get them both to the point where basically they stop killing people. Because I think that's what everyone wants, really, is to not have to be in this situation where there is this constant aggression. And of course, that's very Aries as well. So I do think Mercury retrograde in Aries is going to bring up issues of war and looking at how we can address it, sort it out, re-look at things. And that may also occur in the Middle East, for example. So there may be something going on there whilst Mercury is retrograde, because just to let you know, it starts its retrograde on the 15th, which is today, Saturday. The retrograde ends on April the 7th, and the shadow part doesn't end till the 21st of April. So we're looking at March the 2nd to April the 21st before we are actually in a position where we are free of the current energy that we've got with this Mercury retrograde. And remember, of course, Mercury is going to actually retrograde into the sign of Pisces. And so we're going to have this energy of illusion, confusion. So we'll be going from a time where perhaps there have been some worthwhile and helpful discussions that have gone on the world stage, where suddenly people are saying, yeah, but I'm not sure if they really meant that, or did they say that, or what actually is this particular politician trying to say? So I think once Mercury moves back into Pisces, we really are going to get a period of cloudiness and an inability to see clearly what this is all about and where anything is going at all, where anything is leading. So I think we have to be careful of that. And that also, remember, is to do with your own personal situations, because at this point, if you have an ongoing situation in your life whilst Mercury is retrograde in Aries, which requires you to be assertive, put your point across, lay down some sort of rules and boundaries, they may not be received well. And by the time you find Mercury back in Pisces, we may find that whatever we have been saying is somehow not watertight. Suddenly our observations, the way we have seen things, is ceasing to have so much kind of energy to it. It's like, you know, as Mercury goes back into the watery energies of Pisces, it drowns, and our words, our voice gets drowned out. So will we see? So really what I'm saying is be patient. Whilst this particular Mercury retrograde is going through its paces, don't rush. Be patient. Reflect on the past. Be self-reflective. Try not to make big decisions, and try to channel your energy wisely. Because what I think we're going to find is when Mercury's back in Pisces, we're just all a little bit at sea. Now, as I'm recording this, yesterday, Monday, we saw a really serious accident at sea off the north coast or the east coast of the United Kingdom, where two tankers collided. And sadly, what they're carrying, the kerosene and, of all things, cyanide and jet fuel, has been spewing into the sea along with oil. And, you know, it broke my heart thinking about the wildlife along that east coast of the United Kingdom, where you've got beautiful seals, puffins, you've got wonderful seabirds, and fish are going to be really, really attacked and damaged by the energy of this terrible disaster. This is also in part to the energy that we've got in Pisces at the moment. And I think that accident has been triggered by the full moon lunar eclipse that was yesterday on the 14th in the sign of Virgo. But where I'm bringing Mercury into this is that I think when Mercury goes back into Pisces, we're going to see some cleanup operations. We're actually going to sort of get a sense that they realize they've got to go and be pretty quick about saving marine life and the kind of marine mammals that frequent the east coast of the United Kingdom. I mean, there are some beautiful areas along Norfolk, Suffolk, and going north to Yorkshire and further north. I've been on, one of these tourist boats off the Norfolk coast in the North Sea, where you go to the islands where you see the seals and the walruses, and oh my God, with their pups, it is just beautiful. And when I heard this morning on the news, I think my heart broke into a million pieces, because I just think of those beautiful, beautiful mammals. But anyway, I think that by the time Mercury gets into Pisces, we're going to see the action. So that by the time it's turned direct, which is, when did I say it was? It goes direct on the April the 7th. And by the 21st, we will really see, as it goes through Pisces and back into Aries, some action being taken. Action also against these kind of marine accidents happening. Because you'd say in today's age of technology, radar, all the satellites, GPS, how on earth do two massive tankers hit each other in a massive piece of sea? And well, I think someone commented on the news this morning about the problem is people have to go to the bathroom, so they take their eye off the electronics for a while, or they're having a cup of tea, or they don't look out the window. These are kind of Mercury retrograde elements. And of course, this marine accident has happened with Mercury in its shadow. So what else do I want to say about today and this point in time with Mercury going retrograde? Because of course, remember, a few days ago, we had the Venus retrograde conjunct Mercury, and now Mercury is going to be tailing Venus back through Aries into Pisces. And so we're going to get this build-up of energy again in Pisces. There really is this kind of ebb and flow of this, really emotional, unconscious, and extraordinarily spiritual energy, and a sense that things are being revisited. And I think this Mercury retrograde brings timely endings. Now, I'm not quite sure what I mean by that, but I know that it's going to obviously be conjunct at some point Neptune and the North Node. And there's something about a sell-by date. Something needs to leave that hasn't yet. Now, you can take that in whatever way you want to. And I think what it means for me is that if the full moon in Virgo, the lunar eclipse, didn't remove that from your life, that needs to go. Be it a habit, a way of thinking, a situation, then this Mercury retrograde keeps rewinding the video. Like, let's get you back to that point again so you can see how you can do this differently. Keep replaying it. But that's also a danger, that we don't keep replaying old conversations and going over and over with a fine-tooth comb, thinking, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, why did I say it that way? Because remember, we've got that full moon was in Virgo. So Mercury, when it is back in Pisces, is going to be back in kind of opposition to where that full moon was in Virgo. So be careful you don't get into the over-analysis, the analytical nitpicking of situations that you're in, because what you're doing is delaying the change, delaying the opportunity, the possibility for things to shift and move. And by the time, of course, that Mercury does go direct on April the 7th and comes out of its shadow on April the 21st, then April, as you know, is a bit of a game changer month. And we really are going to see things, ramp up in April. But I've got a word for the day. And the word for the day is reviewing. Because I thought this is what a retrograde Mercury, a retrograde any planet, is about in many ways. It is about reviewing a situation. That's reminding me of Fiddler on the Roof. Not Fiddler on the Roof, Oliver, where he goes on about, I'm reviewing the situation. And I'm going to see Fiddler on the Roof later in the month, because that's why it was in my mind, because one of our local theatres is putting it on. So I'm going along to see that, which should be fun. Anyway, enough of me wittering. Let's look at the word of the day, reviewing. An unknown quote is, your past does not define you. It prepares you. Oh, I do like that. I really like that. And there's another unknown here, that the past cannot be changed, but the future is yet in your power. How true is that? Will Rogers said, don't let yesterday take up too much of today. And I think that's one of the dangers, especially when Mercury gets back into Pisces, that we're spending too much time thinking about if only, what if, I should, we ought. So if you hear those phrases coming up for you, if only, what if, should, ought, stop it. Take a step back and go, that was then, this is now. I can change how I feel and view a situation from my point of power in the present moment. We always have that point of power. The power is now. As many authors, spiritual leaders, teachers have said, the point of power is in the present. This is where we are. We only have now. There's another unknown quote here, which is, look back only to see how far you have come. That's quite a good way to look at a Mercury retrograde. Just think, okay, I'm reviewing things today. Yeah, well, I got that done. That was cool. And there's another unknown here. There's a lot of unknowns today. But then, in a sense, that's what we get with a Mercury retrograde. We get lots of unknowns. So, this is quite a well-known one. The past is your lesson. The present is your gift. The future is your motivation. And here's another unknown. Sometimes you have to look back to realize how far you've come, but never stare too long. And yet another unknown. You can't change the past, but you can learn from it and shape your future. Now we have a quote from someone called Robert Plant. The past is a stepping stone, not a milestone. That's kind of cool. Oh no, I read it wrong. Oh, the past is a stepping stone, not a millstone. Yeah, actually that makes more sense, doesn't it? I was thinking, yeah, milestone. Yeah, that makes sense. No, it doesn't. William Shakespeare said, what's past is prologue. And that's true. We've all had the prologue of our lives. I guess we have a prologue every day. And then we have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and the finale. So, and finally, we have another unknown quote, which is, every past failure is a stepping stone for future success. So I think actually these quotes do epitomize the move, the transit of Mercury back through Aries and back into Pisces. You know, Aries is headstrong. Aries rules the head. It's very much about that kind of sense of, you know, the head, the brain. You know, we can get mental overloads if we're overthinking too much with Mercury retrograde, and really feel mentally drained. So that in some ways, by the time Mercury moves back into Pisces, we may sort of think, yes, just let me float. I'll just float on the ocean for a while and rest and breathe. So on that note, thanks so much for joining me for this Astrobite for Mercury retrograde. I will be referring to it in future Astrobites, I have no doubt. And remember to like, comment and subscribe. And if you would like to have a session with me, please go to my website, pennydix.com, email me, because I deal with the emails personally, because I like to be hands-on, and for us to mutually work out a suitable time, probably within the next 2 months, for us to meet. So there we go. So on that note, thanks so much for joining me today for our Mercury retrograde Astrobite. Have a great day, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now. Bye.